The first recap of Season 3. Last time on FableSMP, Ray spawned in for a second, totally alone. When Haley counted down, Ray put up the bubble of the pocket dimension, but he wasn't able to hold it long enough, and the bubble shattered apart. And he had dreams, memories, experiences from Endirian's perspective, and then spawned into a new world with the crumbles of Town Hall at his feet, and for a moment feared that he was the only one to make it through. Luckily, Sherbert arrived a moment later, followed by Haley. And they went and were able to go look around. They ran into Oshi very quickly and got to see the new tree. Got to try and figure out what happened to Sherbert during the bubble. Because even though Sherbert was there one moment when the bubble's walls went up, they weren't when it was breaking apart. And Sherbert talked to Ray about odd dreams. They found a few things already in this new place. The crumbled remains of the cell that Ray had spent so many nights in, and within it, the Please Remember book. And in the bottom of a river, Haley's grave. The two things that made the brothers remember last reset were there at the very start of this. And everyone had a bit of a time trying to figure out how to interact with Haley. Trying to figure out the new way that she acted. A little overwhelmed, a little random. And eventually, when she got Ray alone, was able to talk about how much everything hurt. How she wasn't meant to be there, and that being there, everything was too much, and she asked for help. And in the end, she wandered off. Sherbert went to go start gathering resources, and Ray built himself a little spot at the crumbled bits of Town Hall, because last time everyone spawned in, they had been there. So he's been waiting since the day before. Last time on FableSMP, Ray ran into a few new people, meeting Ulysses for the first time, the Telkin that he has actually heard about before from a note in the Leviathan Temple, though Ulysses doesn't remember writing it or much about the projects that the Telkins did. He also ran into the mysterious figure leaving spiderwebs all around. A small hybrid called Addie, who skittered off rather shortly after saying hello. And in it, though, also ran into Centros and Wolf. Well, talked to Wolf, as Centros ran away and wouldn't talk to him. Later, having a run-in with Ven at Oshi's house, leading to quite the argument over the things Ven had done and Ray trying to keep Oshi safe, and anger bubbling up rather harshly. Anger that he didn't know how to deal with, that he felt guilty for having and didn't know how to get it out even when screaming in a forest and tearing up the flowers. Kind of just resigned himself to try and keep going. Shove it down and keep moving. It's been a time, these first couple of days for Ray in the new reset. And recently, someone he's been waiting on spawned in. Last time, on FableSMP, there was a much-awaited reunion as Ray came boating as fast as he could back from gathering supplies for Wolf and went running into Caspian's arms. They finally got to return to each other. They went and delivered some things to Sherbert, talked a lot, and looked around for some place to call home. And they finally did find somewhere where they think they might like. Somewhere that Axe might enjoy as well when they show up. It's their hopes, at least. Something that both of them really needed. With Caspian getting to talk about what happened with Mambu, and Ray getting to talk a little bit about what's going on with Centros, the Ven. They might not be so happy though. Last time on FableSMP, quite a few things happened yesterday. Caspian and Ray were finally reunited, but there was a bit more lore yesterday, where Ray spotted Skulk in the bottom of the mines. It was later that he would talk to Caspian and have some theories about the Skulk still being in the world, as even though Perix is gone, when she died, the Skulk did remain. The world did have to rearrange. So, Ray is determined to investigate it once he has some proper equipment and facilities set up to do so. But that wasn't the biggest thing that happened yesterday. After being quite on edge with everything he had just seen, in a bit of poor timing, Centros walked up, breaking his own wants for distance in order to give Ray some of the supplies needed for Wolf to help with the Skulk injury Centros' boyfriend has. And Ray got angry when Centros handed over the supplies and immediately left. Ray lashed out. He got angry, wanting an explanation, and lashed out physically. He punched Centros pretty hard, and very quickly had to flee when he realized what he'd done. He ran. Running into Easton, actually. Finding him out a little lost, where Easton helped a bit, getting to talk about anger. But Ray returned home eventually. Not angry, just ashamed, embarrassed, and disappointed in himself. And he wrote a note for Caspian to go deliver to Centros, but eventually his partner was able to coax him to bed. Last time on FableSMP, Ray went with Sherbert to visit the Nether to take on a Bastion together, and it seems he's finally able to do so. Finally able to go into the Nether. There doesn't seem to be an adverse effect on his health, so they finally got to go be brothers, just like last time, where Ray had dragged Sherbert off to the Nether. Last time, Sherbert showed up and dragged Ray off to the Nether this time. And they got to have a good little time talking about some of the things going on, some of the feelings Ray has been having. And on Meta and Athena's stream last time, Axe and Athena finally arrived. They spawned in and reached out over communicators to Ray, let them know where they are, and he is very excitedly on his way. Last time on FableSMP, Ray, Axe, Caspian were finally reunited. They went and got Axe and Athena from where they had spawned in, brought them home, got them all geared up, showed them around. And there was definitely some hiccups along the way. They run in with Ulysses. Had Ulysses a little threatened when Axe spotted him. There was also a very good conversation from Ray and Oshi, them talking about them missing each other, and Oshi encouraging Ray to not let himself hide his happiness around his partners, around her. And not on my stream, but on Art's, Ray told Wolf about punching Centros, and Wolf did a very good job of talking him through anger being a valid and very human feeling to be experiencing. Probably helped a lot. Last time on FableSMP, there's actually been a few different things across a few different streams. Ray worked on the study lab space with Jamie and Athena. Caspian worked on finally building them a home. And Ray helped Sherbert work on a new place to try and talk to Quixis. Sherbert also delivered all the potions that Ray will need to help Wolf. And, as chat has pointed out, Ray's nub of his old antler has started to grow into something new. Last time on FableSMP, Ray finished working on the dimensional energy reader tools, was setting them up and testing them out, and then Centros arrived, holding an unconscious Wolf in his arms, as he had collapsed from the skulk infection on his chest. Wolf was rushed into emergency surgery, where Centros and Axe waited outside while Ray got to work, and there was a slip-up in it, where Ray nicked a vein, started a lot of bleeding. In a panic and needing help, Ray sent Centros to go get Ulysses, which put Axe extraordinarily on edge. Ulysses came, Axe left, but Ulysses was able to help talk Ray through how to repair the damage, and they were able to successfully complete the surgery and help Wolf. And Centros and Ray got Wolf back home. A very loopy Wolf. But Wolf is now skulk-free and should be on the road to recovery. But Ray and Centros got to talk, got to heal, got to reconnect. And Centros went back to Wolf's room to go support his partner. And Ray went home to Axe being gone and not answering his comms. Last time on FableSMP, Ray went out looking for libraries. He has made a new and improved DER. It's a little bit more compact, boosts the signal of the auras of purgatory so that he can try and find them. And he found a bit more than he expected. Found Arasana by mistake, drifting a bit too close to where she has been staying. So got a little confronted there, but she came with him down to the library that his DER picked up. And inside they found Oxrada waiting, holding a book with many different pieces inside. There was a book in Valette. Well, it was supposed to be in Valette. It's been in Valette in the past, but not now. Why not now? There was also another piece of notes number 3. There was a book from Ven, and a book from someone that might be connected to 7. But Axe is still missing, and Ray is still waiting. Last time on FableSMP, Ray started off with quite the nightmare. A blend of nightmares he's had in the past, of things that have happened recently with Wolf and the Skulk, and a bit of a new one mixed in there. Possible perspectives from Perix mixed into his dreams, which he was very not excited about. But he woke up, was comforted by his partner, well, the one that's there, as Axe is still missing. But they trust that he's okay and just needs a bit of space. But they're waiting for him. They're waiting. And so they got to work. They went up to the library. Ray showed Caspian around and talked through the books that he had just found in the bit of the Akashic record they had run into, which led to some very interesting discoveries and theorizing about the relationships of Saraza and Raza and their roles. They also ran into Addie, the spider sneaking around, stopped by the library, and they were able to say hello. Caspian also delivered a note out to Arasana, wanting to talk to her more about Saraza, and the two of them got to work a little bit more on their home, hoping to make it as nice as possible for, hopefully, all 3 of them. Last time on FableSMP, Ray went over to Sherbert to catch up on the books he had found in an Akashic record piece, show his brother the new library, and go check on Haley, where they did a checkup on her, and physically, she is okay. But not all the way okay mentally. A little overwhelmed, a little too much going on. And knew things that she shouldn't have. And then when they asked about Quixis, Haley freaked out because nothing there was correct. It wasn't right, and it spooked her pretty bad. They brought her home and went over to the pond that Sherbert has set up to communicate with Quixis now, and asked a question that was quite ominous. As Sherbert asked, "Is Sherbert my name?" And Quixis said no. The last time on FableSMP, Ray, Athena, and Easton got to work testing the skulk. They went down to the caves and gathered it up, where they realized something interesting. In the tunnels, Easton could sense where things were with the skulk around them. They brought it up to the new, recently dubbed Morning Pine Labs, down to the Skulk Lab in the basement, and started testing. The old setup of the test tubes and petri dishes. They tried out different ways to destroy the skulk. Freezing it, burning it, all the different types they had found, even the new piece. Catalyst piece. Nothing made any spores. It appears that the skulk is no longer toxic. Which should be good news, right? It should be good news. Last time on FableSMP, Ray had quite the nightmare of now he's getting not only Endirian's memories, but Perix's as well, and had a very intense dream about her working on the potions that would eventually lead to the development of the skulk that she was testing on Caspian. And when he woke up and there wasn't anyone around the house, he decided to go over to Sherbert's so that he wasn't just alone in his thoughts. And it worked out well. He helped out Sherbert working on potions for Haley, though it was a bit of uncomfortable timing to be watching them working on Scoria potions when he just had such unpleasant dreams about such things. But they helped Haley. They seemed to be helping her feel a bit less overwhelmed. And then they were sent off by her on a mission to go get Dark Oak. And it actually led to some really good time together, talking through what happened all the way back on what Ray is now dubbed the Endstone Reset. Last time on FableSMP, Ray went over to Wolf to deliver some additional potion supplies, and they ended up getting to catch up quite a bit, getting to talk to each other, visit, and Wolf showed Ray the fallen star crater and told Ray about the memories he had gotten from it, about his sister Nevaeh, and overall the two of them had a very good time. They sat and drew together, Ray sketching his mother while Wolf sketched his sister. And they talked through a lot of the things they have in common. Weird times with memories being princes by technicalities, and having a lot going on. It was probably really good for both of them. What happened last time on FableSMP? Ray has now talked to Wolf, Centros, and Sherbert about taking a trip back to the end, as they know the next place to look for answers is going to be there. As much as all of them are nervous about it. Ray has been preparing, setting up, getting all the Eyes of Ender, getting his gear enchanted, and now they're ready to go. Back to the end. Last time on FableSMP, Ray, Centros, Wolf, and Sherbert made the trip to the stronghold. This one was more intact than the two that they have found before. Still having active traps and a book. Well, there were a few books, but at least one of them that was not in the library itself gave them a bit of insight as to what the strongholds used to actually be. And the library they found was not kind to them. It had some hard memories and pieces in there. And when they explored deeper, they found Skulk infesting the stronghold, emanating from the portal room. They found a skulked up pair of elytra. They found more catalysts. And Ray lit the portal again. And once again saw his mother. This time being the first time they got to speak, knowing that they were mother and son. In that, Ray got heated. His horns grew. And they ended up going to the end afterwards. They went through, saw the damage, the state of the end this time, found remnants of Centros's old base, gathered the things they would need to make the elytra, and headed home. All of them a little shaken and worse for wear. Ray stuck behind for a little bit until he finally got home, made it back to Caspian, and asked to just stay and talk about it later. A little overwhelmed and a little scared of everything that had happened. Last time on FableSMP, Ray woke up from his nap rest time when he had gone home to Caspian after the end and asked to just be with him until Axe got home, so that he would explain everything later. And Axe arrived, and Ray talked through everything. About the books they found, about talking to his mother, about going to the end. It was a lot. A lot of him just trying to work through his own feelings, being scared of himself and how anger has been changing him. The horns appearing when he got mad at Endirian. And the fear and the hate that he has towards how Perix still impacts their life and what she did. And he did tell Caspian about the pages he found. and he handed them over. But Caspian couldn't quite bring himself to read them. They were all pretty shaken up, so they decided to opt for a distraction. It ended up being really helpful, as Ray taught them a little bit of embroidery. And they did a little practice. It was a nice time together before Ray headed out to go start setting things up for working on remaking the Elytra. He did pull Axe aside, explain a bit more about Caspian and Perix, as well as update Axe on what he had recently had a run-in with Ulysses. But Axe and him had a moment, reassuring each other that they want to be there for each other. They want to be there to support each other, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. Last time on FableSMP, Ray was getting to work on a chorus fruit little farm zone so that he could work more on the crafted elytra. He had written up a book of what to do, what he remembered from last time, and Wolf came over, soon followed by Jamie and Athena, all visiting and ready to help, lend a hand or a paw or a toe bean to making the elytra. And it went really well. They were able to craft the first 4 sets that they popped on and got to take flying. Ray finding a little bit better method of how to make them a little bit more efficiently. And there were some changes to the wings. Ray's have become more bright magenta, matching his horns. Jamie's has golden scars running across the tops of the wings, and Wolf's turned more purple from their original blue shade we saw last time. And it seemed like it tugged at some memories for some people, especially Wolf, talking about things he didn't know he remembered, but now could. Overall, it went really well. Last time on FableSMP, Ray had been working on the elytra when he had a visitor. Easton came over, and they went down and started working on more skulk tests with Easton's new sense. And they were able to find quite a lot, finding that Easton can tell where skulk is. They can even sort of maybe feel things through it. Tell the difference that 2 blocks are different, even if they can't quite tell what they are yet. They could tell the difference between people standing on skulk. They could tell if someone was holding it. They could roughly tell where they were. So they did quite a bit of testing. It was really interesting, coming up with some plans for possible more accessibility options for Easton by incorporating skulk into more areas so that Easton has an easier time getting around. And when they were done, Jamie pulled Ray to the side and asked to talk. And they went up to Jamie's lab room, and Jamie opened up about being nervous that they still might be missing memories like last time. That they only had bits and pieces. So Ray and Jamie talked through their memories, and Ray reassured them that if there were any issues, Ray would do his best to help. And when they went outside, they found someone up to no good, as Easton had borrowed the skulk-covered wings that Ray had found in the stronghold and was practicing flying with them with Athena. Ray was panicked, nervous and scared, had an absolute heart attack, yes indeed, but found that unlike when Caspian's wings had been covered in skulk, Easton's changed. When Easton picked up the damaged pair, they became almost like a crystallized skulk version of their mechanical wings, and have actually made it possible for Easton to fly again by helping them be able to feel what's around them. So they had a good time. It ended up being okay. And in the end of things, Lore turned a bit into a note stream as Ray went down and started theorizing about the auras of the skulk and how it changed and why. Last time on FableSMP, Ray got a visit from Centros, where they tried out sparring, and Centros caught on something was wrong, and Ray ended up being honest, fessing up that he wanted to spar for more than just practice, but instead for trying to exposure therapy himself in some way. And Centros had some ideas on ways to try what Ray was doing, but less aggressively, as obviously it wasn't working, as Ray was having trouble feeling his hands shake and being unable to quite get it to go away. They ended up going to the end together, as Centros wanted to go find a spot, work on a project, a shrine to Epros, and maybe more. And as Centros got working on it, Ray took up Wolf's advice to go and work through his grief. Acknowledge that it was grief, that it's mourning, that he's struggling with all of that. So he went out and he cried to the void. And since then, he's been working on stuff. Yesterday, he lent a hand as Wolf and Easton set up skulk lanterns around the town center so that they could navigate and see better. And he's been working through things. Last time in FableSMP, Ray and Wolf took a trip to the End, seeking out End cities and libraries. And they found them. A crashed End ship in the side of an island that looks to have crashed into and exposed a portion of Akashic Records. A portion that looks rather different than the usual, more like some of the other wings of Purgatory that have been seen. Inside, they found 5 books and a book inside the ship itself. The book within the ship was a captain's log hinting that this ship had been visited by Perix in the past. She tried to recruit those to her side in her attempted coup against Indirian. And within the library was many experiments. A book from Ulysses about the work on Project Chimera. A book that they aren't sure where it's from, but perhaps involves the allies and the vexes, as it involves draining energy and making totems. There was also some positives, a book about a Festival of Light, a complete Delta book about another project that they were working on. There was a lot in there, and it sparked some tension between Wolf and Ray when a book from Ven came up, which had both of them thinking that they had handled the situation wrong. As, looking back on both streams, they actually both had some of the same fears. Thinking that they were the only ones feeling the way that they did, and missing information that the other might have to explain themselves. So Ray ended up writing a letter that he started as a letter to Wolf to explain why he had gotten upset, but then turned into something that was just a way to vent out the frustrations that he won't send. Now he's left with a whole lot of books in his care. Last time on FableSMP, Ray went over to Arsana's to talk to her about the book that Wolf and him had found in the End Library, and confirmed that it was about allies, which it appears that pillagers have been experimenting on and draining, resulting in the creation of totems of undying as well as vexes. It was not a happy realization for either of them. But things did lighten up as Ray got to work on Arsana's wings. They recruited the help of Sherbert to get wings working again as well as they can. Last time on FableSMP, Ray finally gathered up the courage to go talk to Ven, to hear out what he had to say. And there wasn't a yelling match, but it didn't exactly go great either. There wasn't a yelling match, but Ray struggled. He didn't let his anger bubble up and boil over, but he was frustrated, and he was... he did struggle. But at least him and Ven are mildly less hostile towards each other now. Though he does have a agreement now with Oshi, and bit of a, not a threat to Ven, but a holding him to his word that he needs to tell Oshi what happened with Chaos. But the good part is that Oshi was there afterwards to really help him, really say some of the things he needed to hear for himself, for things that have been going on with Ven, and for his relationship with Oshi. And that went really well. And now the two of them set up a fun event for everyone. Last time on FableSMP, we had quite the server event. We had a camping trip, a beach camping trip, where Ray and Oshi spontaneously told everyone, hey, come here. We're forcibly taking you on vacation for 3 days. And it worked out overall pretty well. There was a lot of fun. There was fooling around in getting to beat each other up with pool noodles. There was fights between Caspian and Centros on who, in fact, was the grill master. There were stories shared around the fire that triggered memories. There was definitely some gay, though they were missing their Olm. They sure were being very fruity. And there were some sad things. We did find Seven, and have gotten to now see Seven's canonical ending in our story. He was found in a lush cave, surrounded by lilies of the valley, having slowly shut down and begun rusting away. And that's when we got some soft moments, some happy moments, some story times around the fire to make everyone laugh. And through this trip, each night there were some increasing zombie problems, which led to the final night, where a zombie horde showed up and chased everyone out of the camp. They fled into the forest, where they started finding strange posters drawn in crayon. And a cabin in the woods that was once home to Athena is where Lenarius and little baby Oscar have been staying. And finally, Oshi was reunited with her son. Last time on FableSMP, Ray, Axe, and Oshi took a trip out to one of the many ocean monuments Ray has taken note of. He currently has the coordinates of 5 of them written down. They went to the one that was nearest beach camping. They went out there and, to their surprise, found that this monument was not a Telkin laboratory facility. It was actually an Intellect temple. All the statues were intact. All of the murals, including even new murals that they hadn't seen yet, were still in one piece. There were books aplenty. Little things humanizing some of the Telkin, like a priestess in love with one of her fellow priestesses. There were notes of thanks to the priestesses who helped heal people, because that's what these places used to be. Places of worship, places of healing. And you can see where those places got turned later into something dark. But they got to find things. One of those letters of thanks was written by Ulysses' partner, giving Ray a bit of a mixed feeling again about the Telkin. And at the end of things, he kind of talked to himself about wanting to go talk to his friends.